So you do have two ranges there, right? But you can still see how you find it is irrelevant of whether there's a second range here, not really important for this lesson, right? So actually we're going to take this back off and you can see how I found that piece of that range. And once you get to the highest time frame piece, so going back to this, once you get to the highest time frame piece, shoot, maybe we have to use a replayer tool again. Once you get to that highest time frame piece, no, not alert, replayer tool. Once you get to this final piece of the move, the highest time frame, that is where you have a range reset kick in, where you found the highest time frame piece of the move and you have to do that same range find inside of that range, right? So there's another range find in here, range within a range, right? To see, okay, the highest time frame, greediest point is going to give you your strongest level. And that's how you find it, is by range resetting. And range resetting is simply just going from the highest time frame down to the lowest time frame to identify where the ranges can exist, okay? And once you find where the range exists, you find the highest time frame, which will give you the kind of best point to take entry. Now, you can go deeper inside of this range. Like if we were to go to the 3 minute, and we're going to mark separate levels here. So we're going to go to the 3 minute and say, okay, we have an entry here, and we can go to the 1 minute and we can say, well, we actually might not be able to see the 1 minute. That might be too many candles back for TradingView's memory here. It only has X amount of candles back. Hello, TradingView. Okay, we start again. Well, we don't start again, but we just kind of go to the high time frame here. Cut this guy off right here. And hopefully we'll get to a 1 minute candle. And we might not though. No, we're not going to. It won't let us. It breaks it right there. Okay, so we clearly can't get to that time frame. So what we have here is only the 30 minute time frame. Let's get back to that point. Here, go to our 5 minute candle. This we do still have. We still do also have a 3 minute candle here. This gives you the highest point in the trade, right? That is the lowest time frame, and it also gives you the strongest point in the trade. So now you have two different levels. You have 46.48 and you have 46.36, right? This encompasses one test. Two different levels encompass one test. Which level it goes after is always going to be the dictation of how thin is the move, where is it going to bounce prior, right? So an example would be if I was on a 5 minute chart here and I said, okay, is there a 5 minute greedy point? Okay, there is actually. There's a 5 minute greedy point here. I would use the 5 minute time frame on the next piece below, because one 5 minute time frame is validating that next 5 minute time frame is going to say, okay, well, we've hit one 5 minute time frame. We're going after the next time frame, right? No 15 minute level, so I wouldn't use a 15 minute time frame next. Okay, is there a 3 minute level? Was a 3 minute level hit or was a 5 minute level hit? It was actually a 3 minute level right here. What's clearer, the 3 or the 5? Well, let's check. 5 is clear. The 5 is completely unencumbered by any noise. The 5 is completely unencumbered by anything. You have the hold level and it just goes straight up over it. The 3 has more noise associated with it. It has kind of a candle that stalls and goes there. So I would immediately rule out the 3 minute candle in my range resetting. So when I'm trying to decide between two different levels like that, I'm going to the previous time frame, or the previous test that was established, and I'm saying which time frame has the least amount of noise and is the clearest hold in the move. And I would use that same time frame down because it's confirming that a 5 minute is held here. It's going after the next 5 minute inside of that range. And then I would probably even look at the range prior to that and say, okay, was this a 5 minute hold or was this a 3? It's a 5 minute hold level, not a 3 minute. You can see the 3 minute was already tested here, and this 3 minute was here, which was already tested. So it can't exist, right? So that's a clear definition right here. The 3 minute is here, gets tested 1, 2, 3 candles later, which creates your next hold level. This gets tested 1 candle after. So it can't be a 3 minute that we're using, but what it can be is a 5 minute, because the 5 minute is clearly unencumbered by anything. Here's the 5 minute hold level, doesn't have any tests in that time frame, goes up. So now when I'm deciding between a 3 versus a 5 minute inside of this range reset before I go back and jump into higher time frames again to find my next range, I can clearly and consciously use this 5 minute candle as that part of the range. So this is no longer useful. And you would eventually trail this through to find whatever points and, buys or whatever you have in the future here. Like here's one right here. This was a, good one right here. possible that there's something right here on a 15-minute. It kind of looks like this might be a 15-minute level, or yeah, okay, maybe it's somewhere else. 15-minute levels right here, right? A little bit of a smarter buy, which also could be something on the hourly. Yeah, but we don't have any 15-minute levels below. So, you're using your timeframes to kind of give you that information, right? So actually, let's go back to the daily here and look at range resetting again. And that's as far as we take it with the range before we reset the range, okay? We go and we identify where the range is on a highest time frame, and we can say, so we're going to do another one. So we did one that's kind of this conglomerated tested range here. Like this has some kind of, it can't be like this level here that we marked. We originally didn't have this, or this. What we had was this, and knew that we had some range defining to do. And as we broke it down, we actually saw there's two independent ranges here, one here and one right here. And then we broke those down to see, okay, 90, or sorry, 4062 is a level there. And then in here, we can already delete the 3-minute level and take that 5-minute level right here, right? So and this is already tested in the moment. That was our example where we said, oh, what could it bounce off of, right? So you have two clear levels inside of a range before you reset the range and go back to your higher time frame to find the next piece, right? Like that's what range resetting is. We start with the highest time frame to justify where the right levels are, and a big part of that is identifying where the range exists, right? So when we go back to our highest time frame, remember we started from this time frame down, saying that okay, here's this range's level, and this is tested. So now we actually can't use this. Delete. Let's use the start of the range, right? To identify where it can be from this point here to this point here, right? That's a little different than these green ones, okay? So these green ones are ranges that aren't tested. Like this is a prime candidate for a range that's an untested range. So we would go here and we would say, okay, what exists here, right? So this is, again, how you would range reset, or, maybe we'll do the current part of the move. This seems a little more exciting to do something that's relevant right now. And we say, okay, so this is the range right here, okay? And let's verify this is not anything on the weekly. Obviously, there's nothing on the weekly, so we can't use this time frame. There is no like hold level like this where you come down and you bounce off it and create another one right here. So this is the range right here. It doesn't exist on the weekly, so we can't use it. So we must go to the next time frame, which is the daily. Let's go to the 12. Okay, we actually have a nice 12-hour level here. So we have a daily level there, right? And we're just going to mark all these for this example. We have a 12-hour here. We have a 4-hour there. It's kind of got some noise. Don't really like it, right? Like it's kind of got that same noise that we use to disjustify or discredit, I should say. I don't know if disjustify is a word, but discredit the 3-minute level. It has some noise as to where this 12-hour doesn't, right? Like it has no clear noise. It creates a hold level and it just goes straight up and over. So, in creating this level, now we can simply go after the greediest part of the range instead of having to break the range down into a pseudo hold. I think we skipped a time frame here. Let's go to the 4. That's where we were last. 4-hour. Let's mark it and take a look. Has noise. You can see there's some kind of internal testing in there. It has noise through that candle. Let's go to the 1-hour. There it is right there. You see that's that internal testing. So you actually have a daily, a 12, a 1, right? And then you have this guy here. Don't think this has ever been tested, but it's also not something I would use. I think it's when you're talking about how thin a move is, let's look at this for a second. 0.94. Good enough reason to drop in my books. Okay, so let's continue going. It's way too thin up here. Way too thin. If anything, you're going to bounce here rather than here. You're going to bounce off the top of this. Now that's a different kind of thing that we're not talking about. It had nothing to do with range resetting. But yeah, like do you go here or do you go down there? Yeah, you go down here. As you're going down through this, your job is to find the highest time frame. So we're instantly going to delete this. We no longer need that. And we're going to go back into our higher time frames and start that work again. Almost like as if we just kind of range reset our expectations here. That's just part of the move. And you have kind of the 4-hour that we adapted to the 1. So the 4-hour has too much noise, so we can't really use it. I think there's a better buy there. And then even if we were to use the 4-hour, what's the price difference here? $5. I would use the 1-hour because it's that much cleaner of a level than this 4-hour somewhat tested level. Because at that point, if we're using this kind of dirty 4-hour level, I'd rather use the 12-hour, right? So let's go down to the 1-hour here. And that's where we saw this level here, greediest part of the range. We know it can't really exist down here. if you actually go and do the work, you're going to see that this one here is tested. This here has that same noise and is tested inside of this candle. So whatever 15-minute is inside of this is already tested. That's tested. That's tested. You don't have anything left. So really your greediest point becomes this 88.44 level. You can see on the hourly charts, this is tested here, which brings you to this candle here, which is tested here, which brings you to this candle here, which is not tested. So this is like good if you want the greediest level inside this entire range, right? We could actually take this replayer tool, put it here, and see if there's something greedier. I don't think there's going to be. You got a 30-minute here. That's tested. So like you're looking here, tested to this, that's tested. This is tested, nothing there. Even this one here, this is tested. That's all tested. And you don't have anything back here, so you can't use that. Let's go to the 15. Yeah, the 15-minute, this range is tested here, right? This is not tested. So you do have a 15-minute greedy point. The backside of this range is tested though. So now you're kind of in that same scenario. Like what do I use? Do I use this or do I use this? So we're going to leave this one here for an example. I'm going to color it gray. Well, yeah, we'll do gray. That's fine. Maybe like a lighter color so it's visible. And we're going to copy this one and paste it. Go to the left side here. This is tested, can't use it. This is tested, can't use it. There's nothing left there. Let's go to a 5-minute. Do the same work, right? So you can see there's a pretty clean and clear level here that's untested. There's a range that's completely untested. This is tested here, that's obvious. This guy here is tested there, and there's nothing back here. About a 3-minute, right? We are already at this point and back. This 3-minute is tested here, so can't be that. Actually, it tested twice, so there's nothing on the 3. Even here, this is justifiable enough. The only difference is it wasn't on the 5-minute level. So the 5-minute level is actually justifiable to use that. You have this, right? Which gets tested right there. So that's gone, which brings you up to this moment here, and that's gone. And if you were to do range resetting from the higher time frame, you have this guy right here. And I don't believe this one was ever tested. So it was actually just indeed that 3-minute that was tested, which is fine. Again, once this is tested, whether you're taking a trade on that or not, I'm not so certain you are. So really this can't be the level. Let's delete that. This can be, this can be, this can be, and that can be. So we have worked our way from the highest time frame down with nothing left. So this is where we reset our range and go and look at our actual trades that can happen, right? So now we have a marquee of levels. We have a daily, and we have an area where we can say, okay, where's the greediest level? So when you're looking at this, now you actually have identified where the final points can be. So your real polarity is right here. Like 87.75 is the real polarity. That's where this move has its final kick in the pants. And that's going to drop this move. Like, yeah, once again, a hot knife through butter. It's going to drop that move completely, right? And you reset your range after you get to a certain point. So the key piece of this, again, is identifying where that range exists, okay? So you identify the range itself on the highest time frames. You then go and break it down to find the greediest points, right? So when we look back through this range, we know we can't buy a 4-hour level. There's nothing here on a 4-hour level we can buy. We'll do this from the top. Can we buy the daily? Yes. How thin is the range? Well, you've got a full 1.29. Probably not a good spot to buy if you've got 1.3% left in this. So I would immediately discredit this and take that out. So now we're left with a spread of 0.95. Okay, what's next? This could, by all means, bounce all three of them. Got a pretty strong 12-hour level here. This is a pretty strong level. So what was that, 0.9 that's left here? From here to here, 0.9. 12 hours pretty strong. You know, it's not a bad trade. 4-hour we can't use, clearly. The 1-hour we can. There's nothing on this 1-hour candle. So now you have, where does the first bounce happen? Here or here? Okay, now when we're in this trade, we have kind of an interesting set of data to use. We could long 88.64 successfully, knowing that if 88.64 doesn't catch this thing, 88.43 will. Because this is going to go through two tests, either here to here and up, or either here to here This is arbitrary. This bounce point, we don't know where that's happening yet. The important thing is that the second bounce is going to happen here. So we now can be in this trade in two ways. We can along this level, and if it touches this and goes straight up, we're good. That's scenario one. Scenario two is it hits this, bounces to that level to see if it can move above this and up and break whatever trend is holding that down. That's scenario two, which again will leave us with, if we longed here, we could actually get out of this trade in an unharmed way, okay? If this holds it down, it fails down to this level, which just makes this the larger time frame first bounce, okay? So now you have like this. You long here, first touch, second touch, up, right? And this is that level that's going to bounce it because it's polarized in the move, okay? First scenario, here, here, and hits some kind of inverse and pulls it down, right? Like, which is just, again, this is one time frame, first touch, second touch bounces here. But it gives you 3 data points to use, because what you did is you reset the range back to your highest time frames to see where the buys exist. Yeah? You have a 12-hour here. In my experience, I always go after the greediest level. So I would likely buy 88.42, measure the difference from here to here, and say, yeah, that's pretty close to liquidation. I would really monitor how 88.43 does. But really, now we have 3 data points. We know that the gap exists from here to here. So either this holds or this holds. But what is that? This is 2 different ranges on 2 different time frames, right? So on a 4-hour, it's not. Here is one range, here is the second range, right? So you have 2 ranges in this move. You have what's holding this piece up and you have what's holding this piece up. So you will, in fact, bounce off of this range. Don't know how big the bounce is going to be. Don't know if it's going to hold the move up, because inside of the deeper time frame, it's one range. So where does the range test? Yeah, it absolutely can test in this over the course of a day. It can absolutely test here over the course of a longer time period. Maybe it's not 15-minute candles, but maybe it's, 3 or 4 hours. Maybe it's not, 15 or 30 minutes, but it can absolutely test 1, 2 before it breaks, because this is polarized, right? So now you have data points that actually allow you to trade this properly and see, okay, here's 1 range test, here's 2 range tests. And therefore you have range resetting. You work from the highest time frame down to see where your exact levels are. And it gives you your polarity points and your gaps as to where if 88.42 collapses, to long 87.75. Because this is simply going to give you your next ladder point in the move. And it's even justifiable on this time frame wherever we are right now. It starts to become justifiable on all time frames. Ladder point to here, ladder to here, ladder to here. This actually hasn't even been hit yet. This hasn't been hit yet, right? So if you were going to go after the greediest part of this, you can see it on the actual range. Like when you reset the range and you go back to your higher time frames after doing the work, you can see where the ladder exists. Ladder point, ladder point, ladder point, ladder point, ladder point here. This is going to be your next and final one. But this also makes it like this. Extreme polarity, final level before a massive dump. Now that's extreme polarity. We still have, get rid of that, get rid of this, delete all of these, delete this guy, delete this guy. We still have our 3 data points that we can work this off of to see, okay, does this hold? If so, this is going to be the long-term ladder. Does it go out to this? And then there's a gap between these 2 levels. So range resetting is not overly complex, but it's a lot of work, because you are basically going and defining the greediest points at every single range by using the highest time. Again, non-destructive work, right? Highest time frames down to understand that once we are looking at a range, we understand the implications of that range and the data points that it represents. Because at a surface level, most people would look at this like this and say, oh, here's the hold level, 12-hour, $9,000. What about these? Well, what's wrong with these? Why can't we use these 3 levels? Because it's in the range and it's just the greediest points, but how do we clearly see them? Or somebody would go like this and they would say, I don't know. Well, it's the same levels. That's kind of hard to use this one, but they would say, oh, here's the 4-hour level. This is the perfect buying opportunity. I beg to differ. The perfect buys exist down here, and you have 2 data points that show you where this thing is going to hold and where it could possibly go. So the last level is obviously polarization, and these other levels are where it can hold. So is it going to test once, twice on this orange line and then move up through whatever trend exists here? Whatever this trend is it going to come down and go like this. Oh, we bounced once, we bounced twice, and now, oh, great, we're holding through, right? Or is it going to bounce once, bounce twice, and then come up and break over, right? Like that becomes the question. And it just breaks over right there. Hallelujah. Great job, Bitcoin. And it's the same thing you would do in all of this, right? Like you'd have, 4-hour level here, can't be that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Going back to our example earlier, where we looked at the 5-minute level and we said, okay, well, why can't it be this? Why can't, was that the level that we were looking at? No, it was something else. It was this one here. When we say, why can't it be this? Well, if you were to actually trail the range, you would see that it's right here. It can be this, but why when it can be this, right? So then you're given a clear gap in the move, the same gap we had, that 1% gap that we had. Greediest part of the range will bounce the move. It's also extreme polarity, which just does this. Let's take this guy delete, and let's go you right here. Get rid of you. Right. So this is that next point where it's like, okay, here's a really smart area to enter the trade. And I think, we owe it to ourselves to do a little bit of work here, because again, going the wrong way in time frames, you need to see whether this range is truly tested or not. Right. But then again, greediest point from here, working back. That's tested. So it's right here. So see, minor difference, but possibly the difference between getting filled or not. I would look here for the next buy, as opposed to now I might also buy 95.22, but I wouldn't lose my shirt if we went down to 9,500, because I realize this is that level there. So I would probably just buy at 94 or 97 here, instead of worrying about getting too crazy of an entry too high, right? Like I like to protect my entries. So